Welcome back to Sunday Vibes 1 and all. We are back at Clubhouse 5, the premium place to watch your sports in central London, just by Chinatown. Look who's joined me. It's Henry Hill in his official Julian Nagelsmann Hoffenheim shirt that he picked up in a vintage shop in Brixton. How are you, mate?
Yeah, fine. I was told I looked like a used car salesman yesterday, so I've had to...
Up your game.
We've all football shirted today. It's a rare occurrence. When's this vintage from?
I think this is around 2016, 2017. Let me know, Real Madrid fans around then. I do like it, the black one. But yeah, good to be back on Sunday Vibes. Haven't been on the show in quite a while.
Yeah, exactly. Very good lineup today. And as you can see from the title, a very good topic. We're talking about signings that are going to transform teams. These aren't necessarily the biggest signings. These aren't necessarily the best signings. But these are signings that are going to make significant alterations to maybe a style of football, maybe a position within that team. These guys are both got a name for each role. I'm going to act as the judge on today's episode. We've got 11 positions to go through. 4-3-3, I'm being told,
4-3-3.
with fingers by Henry Hill. We're starting, though, with the goalkeeper. Which goalkeeper is going to be the most transformative signing across Europe? This doesn't just have to be Premier League, guys.
Who wants to go first?
Well, listen, we kind of agreed we would try and think a bit more outside the box. I actually was going to talk about James Trafford to Burnley because I think that is a wicked signing, their record signing. But the fact is, Muric, their goalie last year in the Championship, was really good. He was really good. Kosovan number one. I think it's slightly unfair that he's about to lose his position. Although, you have to be semi-ruthless at this point. But I think he deserved a crack at the Premier League at least. So actually, I've switched to Vicario to Spurs. And he has been one of the best keepers in Italy for 2 years straight. A lot of talk in Serie A is that the fact they got him for £17 million, whatever it was, from Empoli, is an absolute steal. I think this is one of the bargains we might see this year. I think his save rate is huge, and he's facing so many shots in that Empoli side because they're not one of the big teams there. So he's legitimately a very, very good keeper. And if you've seen him in interviews, he's unbelievably well spoken. He seems like a really smart guy, and the Lloris drop off at the end was so big, wasn't it? I love Hugo Lloris, and I think he's been amazing in the Premier League over the last decade or so. But the fact is, they needed to move him on, they needed to upgrade, and I think they've gone and done it when they could have spent crazy money elsewhere. Is he one of the greatest with his feet? I don't know, to be honest. But when it comes to being a pure shot stopper, 27 years old, someone who can marshal that Tottenham goal for a while now, I think Vicario is a really, really smart addition. And I think it's exactly what Tottenham needed. And I think it's smart. They've gone and got him. And yeah, one of the best keepers in Italy, capped for Italy, played against England when he played in Naples. So yeah, I think this is a no-brainer.
So do you think it was a better move spending 17 million on Vicario or 40? They had have got David Raya for 40.
Well, it depends we don't know their budget. We don't know. They're obviously trying to spend money elsewhere. I know they probably will get a Harry Kane fee at this point. Listen, Daniel Levy, I think he saw a potential bargain and he went for it. He's an unknown quantity, isn't he, really?
Yeah.
At this point. So I think, as to quote Doogie, the proof will be in the pudding. You know, that's...
That was my favourite phrase of Monday Vibes. The only issue with the Vicario transfer is that David Raya looks like he's not actually going to cost that much in the end. I think it's around 20 to 25 million pounds that Arsenal seem to have agreed a fee on.
They're going to reject that though, man, surely.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it's getting late in the window. There's no massive interest from other clubs now. I mean, Bayern only offered a loan deal. I don't know. I feel like Spurs could have gone down that David Raya route. For me, the most transformative, it's a little bit dull, but it's got to be Andre Onana. Look, he... had an amazing Champions League run last year. I think it was 8 clean sheets in 13 games. And considering they played against Barcelona twice, Bayern twice, Benfica, Porto, Milan, and then obviously didn't keep a clean sheet in that final. And you often give too much credit just to the goalkeeper on clean sheets. Obviously, it's a defensive effort. But, with Stefan de Vrij dropping off last year, with Acerbi having to come in and actually doing a really good job in that central defence. It was a less settled unit, and Onana was new to Inter Milan, and it was a really good season. Actually, in the league, it took a while for him to establish himself, and his shot stopping probably wasn't at the best in the league. I think he conceded around 2 more goals than he should have. But in terms of David De Gea, end of an era there, completely different style of player. And David De Gea deserves a lot of respect for what he did at United. I think legend is almost passed around a little too easily. If someone stays 10 years at a club, they're instantly a United or Arsenal, Chelsea legend. I don't think this is necessarily the case with David De Gea. But still, a great servant to the club, had some great moments. But this is a guy that can take United's game to a completely new level. I think last year, he completed about 11% more of his balls over 30 yards, which doesn't sound that much. But seriously, if you get an extra tenth of those balls into the right areas over long distances, then I think that will make a massive, massive difference to United going forward.
I think as well, things that aren't taken into account are things like weight of pass and like timing of
Direction.
pass. Like it's all well and good completing passes, but if they're under hit or they're behind the man, which was a consistent problem with David De Gea, they take all of the sting out of a counter attack if you're trying to spring out of a tough situation and a press. So I think it's the obvious choice, but I'm going to have to take Onana on this one, just because Vicario is a bit of an unknown. But I do agree the Tottenham goalkeeping situation is a drastic change for them, given that Hugo Lloris's drop-off, I think, was bigger than David De Gea's drop-off.
Listen, I knew that was going to happen.
Okay, let's go to the right-back slot then.
Right-backs was pretty bleak.
There weren't a lot of right-backs signed this summer.
Is it going to be Hector Bellerin to Real Betis? Because Sabali at right-back isn't great for them. At least he's gone back there. So I get Hamari Traore to Sociedad, but they've already got pretty much the same right-back. So, I mean, listen, I've gone for Preston getting Calvin Ramsey on loan from Liverpool.
Oh, wow. Is this where we're at? There was no right-back signed this summer.
I'm not.
It was really difficult.
It's really minimal. It's really minimal.
You could shove in Livramento now, I suppose.
I know, but I still... Well, anyway.
And is Livramento transformative given the Trippier's there?
No, I agree, but, it was bleak in the right-back slot.
Yeah, it really was. Like, Bayer Leverkusen have actually picked up a Brazilian right-back who is called Arthur. That is really exciting. He's basically the new Frimpong, according to the Bundesliga website. And if he's going to be playing further forward, Arthur, I think for 7 million, already capped by Brazil, he's definitely one to watch. But yeah, Calvin Ramsey, the reason I've gone for it is you never know how like a Premier League loanee can transform your championship prospects. They really rate Calvin Ramsey in Liverpool. They obviously paid, about 5 million to get him out of Aberdeen. Didn't play a load of football last year, was injured from February onwards. But if you look on Transfermarkt, for example, he's behind their keeper. He's immediately like their best, most valued player in that squad. I don't know what Preston's ambitions ultimately really are. Like promotion, playoff push, perhaps. They haven't got one of the bigger budgets in the Championship. But I just think we've seen like McAtee last year at Sheffield United was unbelievable on loan from Manchester City. So Harvey Elliott when he was at Blackburn a few years ago. Yeah, exactly. Like it can really transform your team. And I think for them to go and get one of the most exciting British fullbacks in the game, have him on loan for a season, give him an opportunity to show what he can do, because really his only football has come at Aberdeen. But yeah, they're saying that he will eventually play right back for Liverpool, and I think this is the year we're going to really see him explode. So I'm excited to see it. Like I said, it's pretty bleak, the right back situation. But yeah, Calvin Ramsey, let's see what he can do.
Calvin Ramsey at Preston, please. I'm hoping you've got a...
Well, it's a bigger name, slightly, in European circles. I've gone for Stefan Posch to Bologna. Now, this is a guy, Joe, who I doubt you know too much about, but he spent last season on loan at Bologna. He's just been signed permanently for €5 million from Hoffenheim. And he had a really good year last year at Bologna. Look, they finished 9th. I don't think they'd finished higher in Serie A since 2002. And they went through a really difficult year. So Sinisa Mihajlovic was their manager at the start of the year. He was ill with cancer. Unfortunately, he passed away. Thiago Motta came in, did a really, really good job there towards the back end of the year and finished in a really respectable position. But Stefan Posch, from centre-back, and mainly right-back, can play in both positions, contributed 6 goals. 6 goals alone. So, yeah, he was their 4th top scorer there, behind. I think they barely had any attacking outlets whatsoever. I think it was Orsolini and Marko Arnautovic. And then Stefan Posch was 4th on their scoring list. So, not necessarily the sexiest choices for you to make at right back, but a really effective, astute signing. And they've already been on loan. So, transformative maybe less so, but in terms of re-establishing themselves or keeping this momentum going, I like it.
I'm surprised neither of you said Jurgen Timber. I think by the end of the season he'll take
I
a
might have
white
selected
shirt.
him from a different position.
Right, okay. And I think he might start a left back at the season for Arsenal.
Well, we're on right back.
But I know we're on right back. Just because I want to even up the score, I'm going to say Calvin Ramsey. I'm going to say it's 1-1.
It's all right.
It's a sympathy vote because both shouts were,
It's not our fault.
We've got some bigger names.
Apologies, guys. It's a slow start to this episode. Trust us.
Onana's a
the
good
names
shout.
are going to get better than Calvin Ramsey and what's his name?
Stefan Posch.
Stefan Posch.
Your new favourite player.
Stefan
My
Posch is
new
sick, by the way.
favourite.
So you're just being disrespectful. Okay?
Right, let's go to the centre-backs.
Arkakov, Milan Skriniar. Big name. Yeah. 7 years of Serie A experience, 1 with Sampdoria, 6 with Inter. Rarely injured at all up until last season. I think he missed 4 games in the previous 5 seasons prior to last year, all of which with COVID. Must have really struck him down really badly. But yeah, was linked with PSG for a while. They've signed him on a free transfer. Upgrade on Sergio Ramos, who actually played a lot of football last year under Galtier, but actually played okay, but is at 37. Skriniar, 10 years younger, ready to instantly hit the ground running. I think him and Marquinhos, on paper at least, that's a really good centre-back duo. I think they might be slightly overexposed if Luis Enrique sticks with the 4 at the back, because Hakimi and Nuno Mensch are so attacking, but Luca Hernandez could fill in as the left-back for Nuno Mensch and compensate for Hakimi running forward. But he's brilliant on the ball. I think his pass accuracy has never dropped below 91% in his time at Italy. And he's an absolute warrior of a centre-back as well. I did think his form slightly dipped last year at Inter Milan, but this is a really astute signing on a free transfer.
It's hard to keep up that form as well when you know your future lies away from that club, I think. Like, often when a player has agreed a deal, and it's been long agreed with PSG, that Skriniar transfer, hasn't it? You can lose focus to a level, and I think that's exactly what happened domestically anyway, not on the European.
And he had a few injury niggles as well.
I will say I agreed on Skriniar as one of the 2 centre-backs.
Okay.
Like, I looked at Attila Szalai, who's gone to Hoffenheim. They were so rubbish last year, and they've picked up the guy from Fenerbahce for about 10 million euros, which is unbelievable. He's one of the highest rated guys in that division. So I thought that was cool. But yeah, we've agreed on Skriniar. But I think for the next centre-back position, this is where the competition really begins. Okay,
so Skriniar's locked in as one of us.
I think Skriniar is locked in. It is a great signing at centre-half and better than Luca Hernandez. But next up, I've got Roma getting Evan Ndika on a free transfer at centre-half. Like, this is a 30 million euro free agent that they've got on a 5-year deal. Loads of clubs wanted him, and they've got him. He's 23 years old, 134 Bundesliga appearances to his name, massive passing accuracy, but he's just also quite Jose Mourinho-esque. He's just really, really solid. He's the kind of centre-back that will do so well in Serie A. Like, huge clearance numbers. I think he did the 3rd most clearances in the Bundesliga last year. Big block numbers, obviously loads of aerial wins. Happy coming out with the ball too. And if you look at the rest of that Roma defence, you've got Chris Smalling, who's going to be 34. He's going to run out of steam, more or less. Kurumbula has been poor since he's joined there. But then he'll be alongside Roger Ibanez, who's also young as well.
Will he, though?
Big
question
from
mark.
Forest.
Off to Forest.
Really? Well,
last night. Breaking news, Henry.
There we go. Even more important then to get Evan Ndika through the door. For Roma, it's another. We were talking about this on Continental Club, how it feels like Milan are suddenly a destination club again, where young players want to go. And I feel like Roma is getting back to that as well. The fact that Ndika, who won the Europa League at Eintracht Frankfurt, was in the Bundesliga Team of the Year, not last season, but the season before. The fact that he was like, yeah, I want to go to Roma and play there.
And it's a solid defensive unit of Roma, isn't it? I think it was the 3rd best defence in Europe.
Well, they're just
last season by expected goals against Roma.
We saw that in the Europa League, just how conservative they can be when they want to shut up shop. Exactly, and I think Ndika is perfect for that. I think this is an unbelievable signing we haven't really discussed enough.
I think it's a very, very interesting shout. I do think that a lot of other clubs have not. They're like Tottenham.
Yeah, they were looking at
centre back. I can't believe they weren't in for Evan Ndika. You were taking a lot of heat for Ibanez yesterday on Twitter, weren't you? The Forest fans were I was seeing Doogie rapidly quote tweeting responses to
I was
Forest
just
fans.
responding because I said, what did I say? I said something like, Bournemouth signing a Fiorentina midfielder and Forest bidding, and it hasn't necessarily been done. Maybe by Sunday it would have been rejected or accepted. But them going for Ibanez as well. These are 2 players that went deep in Europe over the last couple of years, and they're potentially going to bottom half Premier League clubs. And I said, it was quite a provocative line, I suppose, but football is broken because the financial imbalance in Europe is so uneven right now. Then I had this Nottingham Forest fan calling me every name under the sun. So I just put him back in his place, basically. And then it just went
Spiraled.
It went spirally. But anyway, that's crazy if they managed to get Ibanez. He did have a few errors in his game last season, but that's still a real upgrade on Forest as centre-back, likes of McKenna and Worrell last year. But I think a centre-back that has to be mentioned, who can play all across the back line, Joe's already mentioned him, Jurrien Timber. I think it's gone under the radar how effective this guy could be in a number of roles. Again, Arteta just loves players that have got sort of multi-functionality, for want of a better phrase. Really
but we're talking about
versatile.
centre-backs here, Dukes.
But he is a centre-back.
And how many minutes is he going to get a centre-back at Arsenal?
Well, if there's an injury, I think he'll be...
I don't think he doesn't start first game of the season.
He does start first game of the season.
He's played really well in pre-season. I'd be surprised if he didn't.
He's not... If they didn't have him, it's not make or break in the same way
in
that
terms
having
of
Ndika
in terms
is.
of transformative, look, the depth last year when they had to play Rob Holding, that was a real undermining factor. The depth at Arsenal is now so much better across the board. So in terms of transforming them from a team that can get, I think they got 84 points last year, maybe they could get close to 88, 90. And I think Jurrien Timber does take them to a new level.
Oh, what? Equally, Ndika, if they are looking at a Serie A title challenge, having a world-class centre-back through the door is a great idea.
I don't know. I think Tammy Abraham being out for so long, they're not going to challenge.
If
for
they
the
get
title.
Scamacca, if they get another forward in, there's still time in the window to do stuff.
There is.
Ooh.
You got a big call.
It's a big call. I think I'm actually going to go Vindicka here. I think Jurrien Timber,
You called for Jurrien Timber earlier.
I did, but I just don't think he's going to be. I just don't think he's going to be a transformative centre-back signing. I think his versatility could potentially transform the depth in that Arsenal backline. But because he's going to be used, I think he'll probably start first game at left back with Zinchenko's injury. He's probably going to use his cover at right back as well. At times, maybe at centre back, but in general, a multifunctional player. Yeah. I just can't lock him down to a single position. So I'm going to go Vindicka. I'm surprised neither of you said Kim.
We talked about him on content.
We've talked about him loads.
Yeah, that Bayern backline.
We tried to come up with some more
big old
interesting
upgrade.
shouts.
Okay, let's go to left back.
This is fun. You go first.
I've gone for Milos Kerkez, who has just signed for Bournemouth at left back. Now, they had Matthias Viña on loan from Roma at the end of last season. I actually thought he was really effective, particularly it was around sort of February, March time. He had a really good sequence of games. But he's gone back to Roma. I don't know whether the situation was Roma didn't want to sell him, or maybe Bournemouth knew that they could get in Kerkez, who's also being linked with Newcastle, who haven't signed an out-and-out left-back upgrade yet on Dan Burn, which maybe they'll do in the next few weeks. Maybe their plan is to also to play Livramento there. But Kerkez had a real breakout season at RZ last year. He was replacing Owen Vindal, who I really like, who went to Ajax and actually didn't play that well. So he had big shoes to fill. But this is a really, really fun, attacking left-back. He ranks really, really high for progressive carries and progressive passes received. So I think he starts relatively high up the pitch, and the assist numbers weren't absolutely massive, but in terms of an attacking outlet to vary Bournemouth's attacking game, I think he's going to make a massive, massive difference. And I'm actually expecting a big season from Bournemouth. Mikey McCubb's coming up in a future episode of Team Talk, said they're going to be his overachiever this season. And I heard that argument, and I'm pretty persuaded as well. I think
signings have been great.
The signings have been great. I think they've got a really interesting manager through the door. His Rayo Vallecano
What's his name?
Iraola. They beat Villarreal twice. They beat Barcelona. They beat Real Madrid. They beat Valencia, I think, last year. They're an underdog side with really high pressing. I think they're going to be really fascinating to watch. He was wanted by Leeds. I think he's in a similar mould to that sort of Bielsa style of play. And I think Bournemouth have got a lot of energy in that side now, and Kerkez is going to be crucial to that.
Yeah, if they get Alex Scott through the door as well, it's reported that they've beaten Wolves to his signature, £25 million. I do still think they need a Jefferson Lerma replacement in the middle of the park. Big time. Jefferson Lerma, one of the most consistent performers last year, most minutes in the squad, haven't signed an out-and-out replacement in that position yet. So I think that needs to happen for them to really progress.
I would say also just before, so yesterday they signed Castrovilli as well, who's this Fiorentina 8 who I was talking about. Yeah. Who is, he was really, really good in around 2020, 2021, had a serious knee injury, and he hasn't quite managed to get back into that side. But at his best, this is an amazing dribbler, good ball striker from range as well. I think if they get him fit and firing, that's a really good weapon to have as well. Only around 12 million as well.
Yeah, I like the Kerkez shout though.
Yeah, Dennis? Shout out David Brooks. Well, hopefully he has a big season next year at Bournemouth. All right, left back was a lot more fun than
the right
back. Yeah, I think Grimaldo going to Bayer Leverkusen is on a free, is wicked. And actually, I think Luton getting Ryan Giles is just awesome. I mean, for 5 million, 11 assists last season. However, I feel quite passionately about this. Javi Galán to Atletico Madrid. This is such a good signing for €5 million. I talked about it on Continental Club the other day. Pat recommended this guy for Barcelona a few years ago. That's the Patrick Van Straten seal of approval. So, which, means a lot.
Ding.
So he came through in 2021 at Huesca in La Liga, where he ranked second for crosses, take-ons, tackles won and fouls drawn in the whole of La Liga. And he's basically just continued that 2 years in a row at Celta Vigo. He's been unbelievable. Last season, he was the third best ball-carrying fullback in Europe and 8th for crosses in a very poor Celta Vigo team, where they didn't really have much kind of in the way ahead of him. Gabriel Vega coming into the season late on, Aspas kind of aging out up front. This signing is so good for Atletico because it finally means they can push Carrasco further forward where he is more effective. Like, Carrasco's numbers for Atletico are nuts when you see how effective he is going forward. Like, last year he got 7 goals, 8 assists, which was his lowest return since 2017-18. Give or take a year or two in China in between.
Give or take that move.
But Carrasco is one of their most creative players, and Atletico are looking super fun in pre-season. They've become a lot more advanced in their kind of attacking play. We saw that in the back end of last season, where Simeone was forced to almost adapt to changing narrative towards him as a manager. And Javi Galán, 28 years old, for €5 million, one of the most experienced. highly touted left backs in La Liga. For them to pick him up, I know they had to send another guy to Celta Vigo in return, but this just immediately lets them put one of their best attacking players further forward and shores up their defence. For me, I said it before, I'll say it again, I feel like this is when they got Kieran Trippier through the door, and he was just brilliant in that title run at right back. I feel like this is a similar situation on the left. I think Atletico are dark horses to watch next year, and Javi Galán helps make that happen.
I mean, that was some pitch, wasn't it? Continental Club audience just stood up and applauded.
If I had a hat, I'd take it.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Javi Galán. The passion in the voice there, but I agree. Get Carrasco up the pitch, please, God, Diego. Bit of entertainment at the. Well, it's not the Wonder, is it now? It's what
It's
they
changed name. Yeah,
titled it.
It's just the Metropolitano.
Whatever they're now
It's
calling
just
it. Yeah, whatever they're now calling it. Let's move on to the midfield then. Who have we got?
I have heard the pitch for passion. So for my defensive midfielder, I'm going all in Henry Hill style on Jeffrey Kondogbia. He's gone to Marseille. Marseille have won the window. Oh, I'm Henry Hill. No, Marseille have actually had a really...
Wow, sorry. Stop the show. What? Where did that come from?
I was just being passionate. I was just being
not
passionate.
any of your
I was
ones.
doing an impression. Right. Marseille have had a great window. I actually think they've had one of the best windows in Europe. Kondogbia, Renan Lodi, Ismail Assar, Aubameyang, good backup depth. Iliman Ndiaye, Amina Harit. This is really, really good. They've got rid of Kolasinac. Dimitri Payet, obviously sad to see him go, but needed to be replaced eventually. Alexis Sanchez has left as well. I think he's gone to somewhere in South America.
Who?
Alexis Sanchez.
Yeah, although there was
Corinthians.
There was early reports, wasn't there, that Barcelona. Do you see
Oh,
that?
yeah.
His
Going
agent
back
in
in for him.
Barcelona going back in for him.
Fair.
Shut up, Alexi.
But there is, it's been a kind of crazy couple of years at Marseille. Jorge Sampaoli, replaced by Igor Tudor. He actually did a pretty good job last year. They had some dips in form, but he left the club earlier this summer, stating tiredness with the club, which was quite a statement. And they brought in Marcelino, one of the best defensive managers in Europe, pretty much excelled at every club he's been at. And Kondogbia excelled under Marcelino at Valencia. I think they did back-to-back fourth-place finishes. They won the Copa del Rey. That was the side that had Carlos Soler, Dani Parejo, Ferran Torres, and Kondogbia was the holder in that. And I was quite surprised Atleti chose to get rid of Kondogbia just because they're looking at Højbjerg, but Kondogbia probably a more natural defensive midfielder than Højbjerg, who can do a little bit of everything. But Kondogbia last year, around 6 tackles and interceptions per 90. I think he's going to offer a lot of control to a side that will be probably less loose than they've been over the last few years, but have a chance, I think, of potentially challenging PSG for a Ligue 1 title. And if they do that, Kondogbia, if he has an impact, is going to go down in absolute folklore in a football-mad city.
Wow. I mean, if they challenge PSG for the title, it's hard to see many other defensive midfielders being as transformative.
If they challenge, you're talking about a 38 game.
We are, but PSG was such a mess last year.
I
Luis
agree.
Enrique has such a storm to sort out, doesn't he?
I completely agree. I think
You're going to have to turn up your passion.
It's
Get that passion
good. It's
up.
good.
And can we see a Doogie Critchley
just
impression?
so everyone knows, we filmed Team Talk yesterday, and it was like 4 seagulls fighting over 1 chip. It was
It was seriously aggressive.
It's quite exhausted
That's going to be
by
a good
that.
episode coming soon.
Okay. I mean, I do like the Kondogbia shout. The only thing I'll say is Marseille already have Rongier, who puts up some of the best defensive numbers in Ligue 1 already. But listen, I'm just saying. I mean, listen, I didn't really CDM. I thought about like Conrad Lima, but I just went for like Yuri Tielemans to Aston Villa.
Does he start? Does he
he
start? Does
transform
Yuri
them?
Tielemans start for Villa?
Yes, he starts for Villa.
I'm unconvinced.
Of course he starts for Villa.
Where does he start for
Camara,
Villa?
Douglas Luiz.
Central midfield.
You talk about people putting up good defensive numbers. He doesn't put up nearly as good defensive numbers as Boubacar Kamara. He's not going to potentially start in the deep line playmaker role over Douglas Luiz, who took significant strides forward last season and was rewarded with a new contract. And John McGinn has been one of the most effective players in that side since Unai Emery took over.
He's been playing right wing. He's been playing right wing.
No, he hasn't been playing right
Yes, he
wing.
has.
And when they signed Moussa Diaby to play on that right wing, Jacob Ramsey has at times spent time on the left, and they've
You've
got
dropped
Ollie
the ball
Watkins
on
playing through
this
the middle.
one.
Where does Yuri Tielemans start? I think he's
I'm
a
not
great
saying
rotation
not.
option.
No. I
He's
agree.
great depth. He's
Listen,
great depth.
I
He's
still-
not transformative, Henry.
I disagree. I think he is there's reasons he's been linked at such a high level. There's reasons he cost Leicester like 40 million from Monaco in the first place. Like, he has a lot more experience than a lot of that. I think he's an amazing signing for Villa on a free transfer.
He's a very good signing.
He's
Nobody's denying that, but
absolutely
he's not transformative.
whopping wages. That's fine. Go for Kondogbia. That's fine. To be honest, I've put my eggs in other baskets. So,
I'm going to go for Kondogbia there. I think
Nice.
Tielemans is a wonderful signing, but I think across the course of the season he'll probably start 15 to 25 games.
Right.
But I don't think it's a guarantee that he is one of the first names on the team sheet yet, Yuri Tielemans.
I do disagree with that, but I get what you're saying. I still think like for a team looking to go in the direction that they want to go, getting in I know last season was a drop off, but he got 20 goal involvements across 2 seasons, so the 2 years before that. Like
He's a great player.
when he's on song, he is a great player, and
But he's competing with Douglas Luiz and Boubacar Kamara, who are 2 of the most vital players in that Villa side.
okay, fair enough. Go for Kondogbia it is. Can I go for my next midfielder?
Go on then.
Right, next one is Enzo Lefebvre to Rennes. He is
Ooh.
unbelievable. Unbelievable. He can play 8, 6, 10. He can play anywhere in the midfield. He's he's not very tall, but his abilities to like beat a man. He's been likened to like Thiago Silva, Alcantara in like his best days. 5 goals and 6 assists last season. He puts up huge defensive numbers too, like 6 tackles, blocks and interceptions per 90. So he's like pretty tenacious. 3.5 shot creating actions too. So everything went through him in that Lorient sign. For Rennes to get him for 20 million euros. So they've done some great business this
It's
year.
an amazing coup.
They've sold like 55 million. Now they've just sold that fella to Chelsea. The money they've reinvested as well. Getting Ludovic Blas out of Nantes, who's been one of the most consistent attacking midfielders in Ligue 1 for years now. To get him and Enzo Lefebvre through the door, I'm genuinely talking about someone who I think in a year's time will be talking about a 50, 60 million euro move to the Premier League. He basically didn't want to leave France.
It was surprising that move, wasn't it? Because
We
there was
wanted him to
talk.
go to Dortmund.
Yeah, and there was talk like to move into inner France is like it was a bit of a bizarre one, wasn't it?
It is a bit bizarre, and I just
Maybe he was worried he was going to end up at Bournemouth.
I think he said it's a bit like Frattesi going to Inter. He said he wasn't ready to leave his homeland. I think Lefebvre wanted to stay in France. And if you look at that Rennes project, to kind of echo what you were saying about Marseille, Rennes have stacked their forward line with such an exciting group of players. Like they've still got Guiri up front, who's one of the best strikers in Ligue 1. They've got Désiré Doué, who's only getting better. Martin Terrier, who's been bossing it for ages.
Yeah.
So that Bruno Genesio has few excuses next year, but to score some serious goals. And Enzo Lefebvre, like playing in that midfield, gliding past people, creating things for that forward line, and also doing the defensive work too. This is massive. I think, as we said, like Ligue 1 is set up for a bit of chaos next year, with Marseille coming through as well. And I think Rennes are going to be right up there. They've sold a fair few players, bought players in, and I think they look stronger than they were last season. And Enzo Lefebvre is genuinely a 50 million euro player they've got on their books. So however long they've got him for, he's going to do some serious bits there. But yeah, unbelievable stats all round.
Do you have a counter to Enzo? Or are you happy with Enzo going in?
No, I'd be happy for you to pick him, but I don't think you should pick him because Ilkay Gundogan is my suggestion. Big signing for Barcelona, an amazing move for him. Look, you know, people will say he's 32, but this is a guy who's rarely been injured. Since that first year at Man City where he did was it his ACL? It was something in his knee. And it really affected his game time. Since then, he's barely missed a huge sequence of games. I think it's around 15 games in 5 years with injury, which is pretty remarkable. Massive impact at the back end of last year. So much experience in a side that are still... There's a lot of young players in there, you know, Balde, Pedri, Gavi, Gundogan, you know, massive experience, you know, winning mentality. And I think he brings something different to a Barcelona midfield that doesn't have... Pedri was getting better at it last year, but any natural goal scorers from midfield just yet. I don't think Gavi's quite there yet. And Pedri also missed a lot of games with injury last year. I don't think he's still quite recovered from that year. Was it 2020, 2021, where as an 18-year-old he played like 70 games for Barcelona and Spain as like an 18-year-old.
And he missed such crucial matches last year.
Huge.
Like him being out of the Manchester United side was effectively what cropped
up. And, you know, in easier games in La Liga as well, Gundogan could play as a 6, with Romeo dropping out. In bigger games in the Champions League, I think this is a guy they're going to look to. I think he's a massive leader in that dressing room. I think it's a brilliant opportunity for him. Look, he's won everything now at Man City. He's gone to one of the biggest clubs in the world, probably in the top 2 at least. And I think it's an amazing opportunity for him. Transformative in terms of the dressing room culture, I think, as well. I'm really excited to see what he does there.
It's a great pitch. Guys, I want to hear from you at home. Who do you pick between Enzo Lefebvre and
different ends of experience.
Gundogan? 2 very different ends of the spectrum here. One guy that's going to come in to more transform the dressing room, I think, than necessarily on the field, although he's going to have a huge impact there, as he has had for Manchester City.
Do you not think Barca fans get annoyed if he's taking minutes away from Pedri?
Because he's Ilkay Gundogan, mate. He's treble winning Ilkay Gundogan. He comes in and has massive impact in big moments. He's the most clutch central midfielder I've seen in the Premier League.
You wait till May next year.
I can see him scoring huge goals in the Champions League for Barcelona to take them through ties. But I'm going to go with Enzo Lefebvre.
Wow.
I thought the Enzo Lefebvre shout was really, really strong. Surprised that Rennes were able to get that deal done, given there was interest from Premier League sides, interest from Germany as well. The fact that he wanted to stay in France, his chance creation numbers are so massive, like you talked about. His defensive output is superb. I'm just glad. I'm kind of glad he didn't end up as part of that Lorient to Bournemouth transition. So I'm going to go with Enzo Lefebvre, but I do think Ilkay Gundogan.
What's the score?
I think it's 4-3 so far.
Okay, it's tight. It is tight in the Sunday Vibes Clubhouse 5 area. We're going into our advanced midfield role. Now, you've got who in this position?
James Maddison. It is a bit boring. It's a little bit down the Onana route, but this is a guy, I think Spurs have been crying out for a real creator in that side, other than Harry Kane, since the peak of Christian Eriksen, which is 4 or 5 years ago now, probably the peak of Christian Eriksen in that Spurs side. I think James Maddison over the last 2 years, 19 league goal contributions last year, 20 the year before that, 13 the year before that. And he's been playing for a Leicester side that dipped dramatically last year. And even the year before that, they had their issues as well. So I think those numbers, yes, there is the Kane question, but there's no reason that he can't supply Richarlison or Son or Kulusevski or Manos Solomon with great passes as well. Look, Spurs are a work in progress, but they're going to be considerably better than Leicester were last year. And Maddison, I think, is ready to hit the ground running. I think only 10 players in the league created more chances than him last year. And he's at around 2.5 chances per 90, which was only matched by Perisic in the league. Which was, and he's not guaranteed to start next year with Destiny Doji coming in. You don't feel like Perisic is really an Ange Postecoglou player. So I think Maddison could have a massive, massive impact at Spurs. I was a little bit concerned when he chose Spurs over Newcastle, just because I wanted him to go play Champions League football right now. But for Spurs, massive signing, huge.
Yeah, I think in terms of their creation numbers, they needed that so badly.
Yeah.
They haven't had a player to be able to create from deep that's not Harry Kane in so long, and particularly with Bentancur being out.
Good free kicks as well.
Particularly with Bentancur's major injury, it looks like he's not going to be back until November. Having Maddison on set pieces, driving them up from the midfield, I think is an extremely transformative signing. So you're going to have to throw a name in here.
First of all, if you want to include Gundogan as well, because he is a goal-scoring midfielder. I don't know. But anyway, I do think Dominic Szoboszlai is a completely fair shout for this position. He does transform the way that midfield will look, because we haven't seen a player like him go into that Liverpool midfield in the Klopp era. They've obviously flirted with Harvey Elliott, trying to be a bit more attacking, Curtis Jones. This is such a big upgrade on those, I'm sorry to say. Szoboszlai is an amazing player. I think 14 goal involvements 2 seasons running for RB Leipzig since he's gone there. Been an absolute hit since coming from, was it Salzburg? I think he came from. Huge creative numbers. 3 key passes, 3.7 successful dribbles per 90, over 2 shots as well. It's a big fee, 70 million euros. But we are also talking about someone that's won back-to-back Pokal German Cups, also plays in that Leipzig side that have been consistently competing in the Champions League, getting into the knockout stages. He's got a bit more big game experience than James Maddison at this point, and he's the captain of his country, and he's their talisman too. Basically single-handedly got them into the Euros, didn't he, a few years ago? Sadly got injured. So yeah, I just think that we haven't seen Jurgen Klopp have a player of his calibre in that midfield. And when we see how stacked their forward line is with attacking players, I think Darwin Núñez is going to have a good season next year. We've got Jota with Luis Diaz, Gakpo, Salah as well, of course. To finally have someone who knows how to unleash these players in that midfield, it's quite scary. It's quite tantalising in many ways. So yeah, Szoboszlai, I think this is such a good deal that they managed to get over the line. I love this ambition from Liverpool, finally throwing money at players like this. This is much better in my opinion than the Núñez signing from a year ago. He's been a hit so far throughout his entire career. Played loads of top level football. I agree with Maddison, but I think Liverpool could genuinely be back in the title challenge next year if they get a good midfielder through the door to go alongside him. I really think
changing that midfield.
I really think that Szoboszlai it is a lot of change, but it's a hell of a lot of experience and quality going in there.
Dude, you cringing at that?
Well, no, I agree. I agree with Henry that he's an excellent shout. I think Szoboszlai is going to be a brilliant signing. Hopefully, I mean, there's no guarantees, but I just think there's been so much change in that Liverpool midfield that I struggle to see them pushing on for a title challenge. I think they'll finish top 4. Definitely on paper, they've got an easily top 4 side.
You could say there's been so much change at Spurs, and if they lose Harry Kane, then who's he going to be providing goals for?
That was a different discussion. I was
sorry, Dukes, I thought you were going for
I was purely disagreeing with the fact that purely disagreeing that Liverpool are in for a title challenge next year.
You never know with Liverpool.
I think Szoboszlai has the ability to maybe not put them into a title challenge, but I think to take them back towards about 85 points, 83, 84 points. Wow. I think he is that good, and the ability on the ball that Liverpool have missed in recent years, no offence to the likes of Jordan Henderson, who have played significant minutes on the ball, they are a massive step back from the ability Dominic Szoboszlai has. As you've seen in pre-season, Szoboszlai and McAllister on the ball comparatively to Milner and Henderson on the ball is chalk and cheese, and it is going to make a vast difference to how Liverpool play football, having players in the midfield who are comfortable on the ball, physical enough to compete in midfield play, because Harvey Elliott is very good on the ball, but doesn't necessarily have the physicality of a player like Szoboszlai. He was actually he's a big unit. He's not a small bloke.
He's quick as well.
For me, though, transformative on their side is Maddison.
Come on, man. They have never had an attacking midfielder like this.
They have.
They haven't.
I think he's probably the best attacking midfielder I've seen at Liverpool since Coutinho. I agree. But
since Coutinho, do you know how long ago that was?
Yeah, but in that time, subsequently to that, they've won league titles, they've won Champions League titles.
And then how have the last few seasons gone?
Well, prior to last season, absolutely fine.
Okay. That's fair enough.
Midfield had a bit of a drop-off
last
year. I don't mind you picking Maddison. How long have Spurs been crying out for an attacking, creative midfielder? Literally since the days of Christian Eriksen.
Sorry. You know what? The world will keep spinning. So
I think it's James Maddison for me in the attacking midfield. On to the wingers.
Right wing.
It's champing it a bit.
Right wing is one of the most, I think, after this, is like one of the closest calls, because I think Dukes is also very good. I do think Moussa Diaby going to Aston Villa is crazy. I really do think that is an unbelievable signing for that right side of that attack, because last year, I know you refuse to believe it, but in the 4-4-2 which Unai Emery plays, John McGinn was often found himself on the right wing, and if they were going into like a 3-man attack, Leon Bailey was there. I think it's fair to say over the 18 months he's been there,
I agree.
Leon Bailey is fine.
But John McGinn's going to play large minutes because he's a clear leader in the dressing room.
Moussa Diaby is one of the best players in the Bundesliga, hands down. 9 goals, 8 assists in the Boogie last season, 25 goal involvements in the season before that, then 15 in 2021. He's just spent a year playing under Xabi Alonso, unbelievable coach. They got him for £50 million. This is huge. He's 24 years old. He could have gone. We've been pitching him to massive clubs over the years, massive clubs. 10 caps for France as well. Over 4 progressive carries a game. This guy, basically no defensive work whatsoever. You get him on the ball in the final third, and he's going to score you goals. Because let's face it, last year really, they ended up. Ollie Watkins came into his own. I think with Cameron Archer going back in there, it's going to be exciting too. That forward line in that 4-4-2, which they play on that right wing, Moussa Diaby is an unbelievable upgrade for that Villa side. So yeah, like I said, Leon Bailey, fine, becomes now a good squad option for them. Moussa Diaby is an immediate starter in that Aston Villa team. I can't believe he's gone there. I think it's a sign of what Unai Emery has done to the club, that they're able to attract players of his calibre. So yeah, it's. I said yesterday on Team Talk, I think Aston Villa are on for a top 6 finish. I certainly think they're going to win the Conference League with the cup-winning manager they've got, and Moussa Diaby's part of that. Like, there's a reason he's chosen to go there. It's a wicked signing, Moussa Diaby, and he's only 24 years old. So yeah, unbelievable.
I agree. I think it's a sensational.
It's hard to beat Moussa Diaby.
I just don't think it's as transformative.
Yeah, is it transformative?
How is it not transformative? It takes an average forward line to an amazing forward line. Okay, but Doogie, please go.
It is transformative, but is it as transformative as Samuel Chukwueze going to AC Milan? I don't think so. Look, Milan over the last couple of years, it's actually amazing what they've managed to produce, really, with a Scudetto and a Champions League semi-final run, given how one-dimensional their attack has been over the last few years. Rafa Leao was directly involved in around 35% of their league goals last year. Junior Messias on the right wing, not very good. Poor, to be honest. Yeah. You know, Alexis Salamanca can turn up for 3 games a year, you know, and make some sort of impact. But Samuel Chukwueze, I think, is a game changer. I think he'll be one of the fastest players in Serie A in a league that has quite cumbersome defenders in many of the top teams. You know, look at Roma's defence, for example. I think Samuel Chukwueze has the potential to cause a lot of damage. He's in the top 3% of wingers for successful take-ons. And in terms of successful take-ons in Europe last year, only Mbappe, Vinicius Jr., Jeremy Doku, who's now linked with Man City, and Jude Bellingham, kind of a, what's the polar bear doing in Arkansas meme doing in there? But anyway, that's just Jude Bellingham. But yeah, only those players completed more take-ons in Europe last season. He's a big game player as well. In terms of his goals scored against teams in La Liga, he's got 3 each against Real Madrid and Barcelona, also Levante, bit of a side note. But yeah, big game player, transforms that Milan attack, so much pace, so much energy. I can't wait to see what he does. Probably the tightest shout of the episode, maybe.
Yeah.
You've got a tough one, Judge.
This is a really tough shout. I think Moussa Diaby is going to be awesome for Aston Villa. And Aston Villa are going to jump up the table because of it. But in your world, Henry, how many goal involvements does Moussa Diaby get next year to be described as transformative?
I think we're looking at 12 plus. I think that's fair enough for a first season in the Premier League. Well, I do think, like I said, they've also got the Conference League as well, and that's a surefire way to get into the Europa League and get a bit of silverware, give a little fan something to cheer about.
I'll ask you the same question.
I think Samuel Chukwueze could probably hit
this is so dumb.
around 10 to 12. But I think that'd be a really good return for Milan. I think he'll be able to occupy defenders so much more that it will almost create more space for Rafael. And I think Rafael next summer will be the guy that people are talking about for £100 million plus.
I do think you could say similar for Villa. I think that Diaby will draw so much heat from Ollie Watkins.
Which club needs their player more? I think Diaby have McGinn. They've got Leon Bailey. They could even play Buendia on the right. Milan options on the right wing are dreadful.
McCubbin, what do you think? McCubbin's off camera.
I think you were conservative with your Diaby goal involvers. I would go, Milan, horrible right way.
Mikey is going Chukwueze.
He thinks,
fully
if you
winning.
didn't catch that, he thinks Diaby could get more than 12 goal involvements.
Yeah, he does. But he thinks that given Milan's shocking right wing fiasco at the moment, that Chukwueze probably a slightly more transformative signing. Even though we all love Diaby, we're not saying it's a bad signing, we're saying it's an amazing coup. If we were doing coups of the window, we'd have Diaby up there around.
Coups of the window.
Yeah. If we did
Sunday vibes next week.
coups of the window, we'd have Diaby up there, wouldn't we? As one of the biggest.
God.
Okay, left wing.
I'm going to do this quite quickly. Ismail Assar. I think I've already talked about Marseille. I think the fact that he managed to stay 4 years at Watford, that was really, really lucky from Watford's side, to be honest. I think he was a Premier League player from really his first year in the Premier League. I remember that game against Liverpool when they ended that 27-game winning run or whatever, and he was excellent in that game. Look, he spent 2 years in the Championship during his time there. Last year, 16 goal contributions, 11 goals in 54 games for Senegal as well. He's really experienced. He's ready to hit the ground running, and I think he's going to make a big difference to Marseille.
Okay, Henry's coming for you there. In the Championship to me.
He is a great
sign. You picked Calvin Ramsey earlier, so let's not start talking about the Championship.
It's a great. And you picked him, so there we go.
I have no disrespect for the Championship.
No. It's a great signing. I really like Ismail Assar. I just think this is my most fun shout of the selection, and this is Dusan Tadic going to Fenerbahce. And just hear me out. First of all, the obvious answer, by the way, here is Jonathan Bamber to Celta Vigo, and I'm not allowed to talk about him because I spoke about him on Continental Club and last time on Sunday Vibes. The fact they've got a €20 million player who's got tons of goal involvements for Lille over the years. The fact that Celta Vigo have got Jonathan Bamber in through the door to go into their left-hand side of that attack is the most transformative left winger.
Inconsistent.
His numbers are. It's amazing for them to get him on a free transfer. But Dusan Tadic his numbers are mental for Ajax over the years. 28 goals, 12 assists, 25 goals, 11 goals, 14. Even last year, 11 goals, 17 assists in the Eredivisie.
I think he was going at pretty much a goal contribution appearance for Ajax across his career.
That was in the Eredivisie. Imagine what he could do in the Super League. I remember you tweeted that loads of people should have been looking at him as a free agent. If we look at what Galatasaray have done, getting Angelino, Zaha, Icardi, Bakambu, Derinbay, Zaniolo and Mertens last year, Fenerbahce have had to respond. They've had to step up to the plate. And they got in Ryan Kent, which, and then they got some bloke from Dinamo Moscow, and then they got Dzeko through the door, which is cool. They've gone.
Not about Dzeko.
They've got. Let's get Tadic in there as well. There's an arms race in the Turkish Super League. Okay, and Fener have just stepped up with a big gun himself in Dusan Tadic. I think this is such a fun signing. He's going to go. It's a pretty classic Super League signing in itself. He's going to transform the left side of that attack. I really don't care who you choose for this one. I just wanted to talk about Dusan Tadic because I think he's going to absolutely rip up that Super League.
Obviously, Captain Passion Merchant is going to absolutely love this.
I have to say, I'm surprised. You mentioned one of the trainers. I'm a little bit surprised in either of the wide positions. I would have, having thought about it now, I would have allowed Messi, who is not only going to transform a team but a league.
I'm not joking. I said to you.
That is fair enough.
I said to you.
Quite dull.
I said to you, I will put Messi up front. And you said, don't pick that bum.
That's such a lie.
That is what you said.
That's
He is
outrageous.
obviously the most transformative signing. He could score goals with his with his I don't know ear in listen.
I'm not the happiest with the two left wing suggestions, boys.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie.
What do you?
I'm a little bit surprised neither of you said Harvey Barnes.
No, it's not.
I don't know whether he's
Come
transformative.
off
I think he
come
will
off
be.
it.
I don't
Come
think they've
off
got
it.
nearly enough goals from wide
No.
positions
No.
last
I think Joe
season.
Linton was good there. I think
But
Anthony Gordon, they're all
not
expecting
goal
big things out of Anthony
scoring. Not
Gordon.
goal scoring.
It's not.
No, I agree.
It's not transformative.
I think getting an extra 10 goals from wide
it's a
positions.
good
next year,
signing. It's not
I think
transformative.
it could be transformative for Newcastle, but just Passion Merchant again. I'm taking Tadic, but I'm not happy with either of those. I want to hear from you guys at home some suggestions that you think could be transformative in the left wing position that are better than Ismail Assar going to Marseille and Dusan Tadic going to bloody
disrespect
Fenerbahce.
Ismail Assar.
Don't disrespect.
I mean-
yeah.
And Tadic is a good player.
Strikers.
I thought about Marcus Thuram going to Inter, but I actually think it's quite difficult to really transform a side that reached a Champions League final last year.
Yeah.
And instead I'm going for Tati Castellanos, who's gone to Lazio from Girona, because Immobile was aging out last year, was increasingly injury prone, still, an amazing servant to Lazio. It will go down in, history of Italian football, what he's done for that club. But the time is, ready to start moving on. And Tati Castellanos, I think he got 13 goals for Girona last year in the league alone. Scored 4 goals against Real Madrid in one game. I think he was around 5th or 6th in the top scoring charts in La Liga. Look, it's nothing insane, but Girona, aren't one of the bigger budget sides in La Liga by any means. And he had a really good record in the MLS as well for New York City FC. I actually thought that he was going to go eventually to Man City potentially to be a backup there, but I don't think he's quite at that level. But I think he can make a big difference to Lazio. I was watching some of his highlights yesterday. He's got that Argentinian sort of tigre about him. Like, he's a really determined, all-action attacker, really nice flicks around the corner, actually very good in the air despite being quite small, and I think he could score quite a few goals in the Serie A and sort of ease into this post-Immobile era.
He was on loan at Girona from New
only
York.
on loan.
New York.
From
Yeah.
New York.
New York.
New York.
I was trying to remember.
Right,
that.
Sinatra.
I was going to say Red Bulls, but it's not. It's New York City, I think. Yeah, good. They did need a striker, to be fair. They finally got one. I've gone for Nicholas Jackson at Chelsea. I think they've been crying out for a number 9 up front. And listen, I know that he had 1 year in the top level last season where he did really well in the minutes he played at Villarreal, scored 12 goals last season. But he was playing in the Segunda division before that for a whole campaign as well, with Villarreal B and Mirandes too. So he does have experience there, and being good in the Segunda division is what got Darwin Núñez his initial move to Benfica from Almeria. So it's not a chump league by any means of the imagination. Nicholas Jackson for £32 million, which by other clubs' imaginations is a big fee, but for Chelsea it's actually quite a moderate fee for what they've been doing. Is. And he's looked wicked so far. I mean, he's probably been their best player in pre-season. And the fact is they got him in before pre-season began. So he's had 5 games within that system to kind of adapt to the passing movements and mentality of the players around him. And he's looked great. Even if they get Vlahovic through the door, there's no question that he's starting that opening game against Liverpool at this point in time. He's 22 years old. I think he's fast, direct, excellent first touch. He's amazing with his back against the wall. We saw that great goal he scored in pre-season where he burst past the last man, slotted it in the bottom corner.
Nice link up with Mudryk as well.
Nice link up with Mudryk too. And you can see in the way his body language, he's demanding that the ball's played into him. He's demanding kind of respect from the players around him. I don't think there's too much expectations on his shoulders, unlike when Lukaku came in.
I agree.
I think they finally found the point man who can take them into the next. You can take them forward, and it's not a massive. like even if they have to sell him because it doesn't work out, they're not going to make a huge loss on him. Unlike the Lukaku situation, I think this could be one of the gems of the window for Chelsea, which is a surprising thing to say about them in the market.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's pleasantly surprised me in pre-season. I think he's looked absolutely excellent. Can't disagree with any of those points. It is pre-season, so I'm going to wait to reserve complete judgment until the league games really start coming. My only concern in terms of transformative signing is if they bring in Vlahovic and do this Lukaku swap deal, he's probably not eventually going to be the starter.
If he hits the ground running,
I think that's a lot of hypotheticals there. I think right now, as we sit here today, I think that Vlahovic deal's a long way off. Like 40 million euros plus, that feels like a deal that I'm not convinced Chelsea are going to want to do. I think Nicholas Jackson has had, like Henry said, such a good pre-season. I think it's easy to forget that last season Chelsea underperformed their expected goals by I think 10. I think they were the worst performing forward line by expected goals in the entire league. They just could not finish their dinner at all on any level in any position in the forward line. I think Nicholas Jackson, for me, when he first arrived, was a confusing signing. I didn't really see where he fitted into the forward line when Brozier was already there. It wasn't like he was going to be a nailed-on. I think he's a now nailed-on starter.
Yeah.
Pochettino after this pre-season, which therefore means they've got a number 9 who can score goals.
It's still a big ask to get a 22-year-old, 21-year-old to transform a Chelsea side and take them into top 6, top 7 contention. But my point is, this is a guy that's only ever started 16 league games in a top 5 league. He was linked with Bournemouth in January. It is a big ask to transform Chelsea. I'm not saying he won't. But
it's not a big ask to transform that forward line.
He's
just got to put the ball in the net.
The pressure playing for Chelsea is just entirely different to whatever he's been used to.
Castellanos has played most of his career in the MLS. He's played 1 year for Girona.
I don't think it should be Castellanos either. I think that was quite a weak shout. Right. I'm just questioning whether Nicholas Jackson is going to transform Chelsea.
I think the current state of that Chelsea side and the fact that they're having almost a clean slate, the fact that he can go in there, he's got an opportunity to do something wicked.
It'll be an amazing underdog story, and all power to him. I hope he does really well at Chelsea. Is it going to be a big ask to transform them?
He looks like he's got the physicality for it as well. There was a moment in the Newcastle pre-season fixture where I think he shrugged. I think it was Trippier off the ball in the corner and kind of battled his way into the box. In that moment, I thought. Yeah. It's not like a 22-year-old who's going to come in and need a lot of development.
Do you remember when Diego Costa first came to the league and everyone was like, who the hell is this guy? Really physical presence. Yeah. It feels like a little bit like that.
Yeah. I think nailed on.
I think it was a good shout.
I think Nicholas Jackson's a great shout, man. I think he's going to have a really good season for Chelsea. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. Okay, the scores are in. I'm hearing it 6-4 to Henry, and there was one draw, of course, so they agreed on Skriniar at the back, didn't they? So there were only 10 positions to battle between. Henry's come out 6 for Victor. There was a couple of shouts in there though that were a bit stinky, and we wanted you guys at home to give some better suggestions in the comments below. Obviously this was very European based. If you haven't already watched these guys on Continental Club, go and watch this week's episode of Continental Club where they're talking about some of the worst transfers of the window so far. There are some stinkers travelling around Europe right now. If you enjoyed this video, please do hit the like button, hit subscribe. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. See you later.